we head into turn number 1. Something of a pinch point. Max Michelli trying to make a move early on. Very, very good start, I believe, as we go through turn number 1 right now. Pushes himself through into V2 because he's got the inside line. He's world champion, Finali Mondiali champion. Hi everyone, welcome to Imola. It is Finali Mondiali qualifying for our 488 cars and our Coppa Shell cars and driver. And we have 20 minutes for our 488 challenge drivers first of all for their qualifying session. Then we'll have a little 5-minute break and then we'll send our Shell cars out for their qualifying session. Here we are at Imola then, and this is what it looks like in the sunshine. I regret to say we don't have sunshine today. It's very damp conditions. But the heavy-duty rain that we had earlier on has abated right now, and it's not as bad. So the Finali Mondiali event is something very special indeed. And this track, Imola, is something very special indeed. Steeped in history and heritage, 21 turns to challenge all of our drivers as it makes its way through the countryside here in the Emilia-Romagna region of Italy. Yes, it is a test for our drivers, and the weather conditions have been a test for the drivers for the days that we've been here, really. Track temperature is currently 18 degrees, the air temperature almost the same at 17, and a little bit of wind around, but the track being damp, I would urge every driver to be out on the wet weather tyres. I don't think there's any mistake about that. So 20 minutes of qualifying to set grid positions for the Finali Mondiali races. Finali Mondiali races are non-championship affairs. They are the world final races. Who will become the world champion across the 2024 season. Now, the Finali Mondiali event is something very special. Always a big Ferrari show, and the Ferrari show will be kicked off with a parade which will make its way through the city of Imola as well. And here you can see the exact map of where the parade will take place. And we urge you to form part of the thousands that we expect to line the streets of the parade as it makes its way here to the Autodromo Enzo and Dino Ferrari. It's going to be something special. The Ferrari show always is, as indeed is my colleague who's with me all season long. I mean, he doesn't really deserve that. He's actually a nice guy, and therefore to be saddled being alongside me, Nico, I apologize. Hello.
Hello. Great to be here, great to be with you, great to be here in Imola for the celebration of all that is the prancing horse. Ferrari World Finals 2024 in Imola. The weather hasn't been all that kind. There we can see some of the Shell drivers who will contest the next part of this two-half qualifying. First, it's 20 minutes for the 488s, then a short intermission just to have an espresso, cappuccino, cup of tea, and then we go into 20 more minutes of qualifying, because for the race later on we will combine the two categories into one grid, into one race, and that is how we do things. And at the end of today we will have the grid, but what happens in this qualifying session is only a precursor to what will happen later on.
You're absolutely right. We're looking at Fabrizio Fontana in the green and white car there, who of course is our 488 champion. And we're also looking at Sven Schirmer. I had a conversation with Sven in the really rather opulent Casa Ferrari that's here in Imola as part of the, well, I cannot begin to even explain what the paddock looks like here in Imola when Ferrari comes with the Finali Mondiali. And let's go on board the pit wall now with Scuderia Prague, who I think that's Adam, one of the team members from Scuderia Prague, who of course have driver representation in the 488s with Alexei Komarov. And Alexei Komarov will form part of these 11 488 challenge cars that will take to the track. Yes, the paddock here in Imola, well, It's almost like being in Maranello, Nico, where everything is red. There are lots and lots of exhibitions. There's showrooms, there's lifestyle, there's all sorts. And Casa Ferrari is, say, a really opulent lounge, and that's where I met Sven Schirmer earlier on today. And he was having his breakfast, so I didn't disturb him for too long, although he did invite me to sit down and have a croissant. I didn't. On account of the fact I needed to be here. That was the truth of the matter.
That's your dedication to your craft, and welcome. Good to have you here. We see our 488 challenge cars file out of pit lane and make their first tentative steps around the Tamburello chicane. There is Tommy Lindroth going through shot. There, the yellow car.
What a brilliant year, may I just say, that Tommy Lindroth has had.
Absolutely.
P2 in the championship. Absolutely awesome stuff from Tommy Lindroth. Well done, Tommy. He's a diminutive chap, but he's one of the biggest characters in the paddock of our 488 competitors. Having found already that Quinn Wittlersbach didn't have perhaps quite as much grip as he hoped for. Quinn, who's been very, very successful across this weekend, Nico. A talented young driver, and I spoke to him yesterday. I can't remember whether you were with me or not, and he's hoping very much to be in the 296 next year, so we look forward to seeing Quinn Wittlersbach.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the very young drivers here in the 488 class, and as you said, he only joined the Ferrari Challenge Europe at the Nürburgring, so the previous rounds. There's only last round and this round, but has already shown pace, has already had great deal of success over those two events, and you know, where he came so late into the championship that the title in category for Europe was already decided effectively when he joined. It's a different story about the race tomorrow, and therefore this qualifying. This title tomorrow for the 488s in the world final race, it's down to one race. So this
winner
qualifying, winner takes it all. So it's all there to play for all the drivers who are part of this qualifying session. We will see. Sven Schirmer, he's probably shown the most pace here at Imola thus far.
I would agree with that. Whilst we were talking about Quinn Wittlersbach being a young driver in the 488, if I may, just for a moment, mention the 488 Challenge in North America as well, which has been a huge success this year. And another really talented young driver, Massimo Perina, who was successful in the 488 Challenge in North America. And I know Massimo is here this weekend, so well done to you, friend. Brilliant, dominant display from Massimo over the course of the 2024 season. So, as you rightly identify, Nico, the Ferrari Katowice driver, Sven Schirmer, has been very quick here at Imola. And his time, I suspect, will be a reasonable one, although there are 20 minutes on the clock, Nico. And what we've found in the qualifying session before this, where the weather conditions were slightly different in that the rain was still coming down, the best times came right at the end of the session.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, first of all, it's a short, sharp qualifying, so by the time you've come out of pit lane, made your installation lap, have set up, you only have like 15 minutes remaining of the qualifying in the best of times, and then obviously first you try and put a banker in to make sure that whatever happens, red flags, some misfortune, traffic, you already have something on the board, and then generally the strategy is to edge closer and closer to what you think is the limit, and that limit gets pushed further the more water is dissipated from the track.
Yes.
And when the track is drying, which in fairness, even though the rain has eased a little bit, it's not really drying.
No.
But still, it allows you for a little bit quicker laps, a little bit more risk towards the end. So yes, we did see 4 or 5 of the very best times in Coppa Shell came after the clock had counted down to 0. So on the very last attempt. Will it be the same here? We're about 15, 16 minutes away from finding out.
I think the first meaningful lap time that we will see on our screen will come from Sven Schirmer, and he has just a kink to do. Round it he does and heads towards breaking the timing beam now, and we'll see what sort of a time this is. Well, it's a 2:05.945 from Sven Schirmer. I think Fabrizio Fontana was next across the line, and indeed he does with a 2:07.599. And there is the Fabrizio Fontana driver car combo. He, of course, champion in the 488 Challenge in Europe for 2024. Great job done by Fabrizio Fontana. And yeah, Yes, he continues on his way. Alexei Komarov is third fastest. No, he isn't, because Maurizio Pittori has just put in a time that was quicker. And then it's Pino Frascaro and Tommy Lindroth. Now, there is a banner you can see on the left-hand side of your graphics screen at the top there, which says Super Pole. And that is basically because the top 6 drivers have the opportunity to go into this Super Pole competition, which will give you, effectively, pole position for the world final race within class. Fabrizio Fontana is improving through Sector 1. It's Sven Schirmer, Fabrizio Fontana, Quinn Wiedlisbach, the top 3 at the moment. Then it is Maurizio Pittori, Alexei Komarov. Then it's Pino Frascaro and Tommy Lindroth. We have still times to come from Faisal Shayer, Germano Salernitano, Gerardo Marino, and also Niels Sabranson, who, another driver that I spoke to earlier on this morning. Fabrizio Fontana with a good trajectory here. Purple Sector 1, Purple Sector 2. And he is heading for an improvement. Will it be enough to take away the P1 position nominally from Sven Schirmer with his 2:05.945? Well, Fabrizio on his last lap was 1.6 seconds down on that time, but he is improving. There is no question about that. So too is Quinn Wiedlisbach. So going to be very interesting how over the remaining 13.5 minutes of this session, as nearly every driver setting purple sectors, Pino Frascaro, another one doing the same. Here comes Fabrizio Fontana now. Is this good enough for P1? Yes, it is. He's taken 6 3/4 tenths from Sven Schirmer. You could just see there Stefano Kai, who is Fabrizio Fontana's driver coach, urging him on from the pit wall. It looks like it's going to be a good time from Pino Frascaro. He at the moment is P7, but is targeting an improvement to put him into the top 6, as Tommy Lindroth also goes into the top 6 as well, with a time good enough for P4. Here is Pino, who goes third fastest, Nico.
Indeed, and so all our 8 drivers who have come out of the pit lane have posted a reasonable time. The 3 we are missing are Germano Salernitano, Gerardo Marino, and Niels Sabranson, who we definitely saw walking down the paddock earlier. And Quinn Wiedlisbach, our winner from yesterday, proves that he's got a lot of pace and goes to the top of the timing with a 2:03.440. In terms of the Super Pole,
oh, thank you.
Our interpretation, and having just checked the specific supplementary regulations for this very event,
yes,
there will be a Super Pole for Coppa Shell M, there will be a Super Pole for Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli M combined, and there will be a Super Pole for Coppa Shell and the 488s combined. So the 6 quickest across the 2 categories will make it, which the Coppa Shell drivers haven't set a time yet. Obviously, the 488s will get to the top of that ranking for the time being, in fairness with the 296, unless it's monsoon-like out there. At the end of the combined sessions, it should be 6 Shell drivers. So we expect the ranking among the 488s, which we have at the end of this session, to be the ones that will determine their starting
So
positions.
the Super Pole is not going to be ranked per category.
Exactly. That is the interpretation. So we will have 6 cars into each of the 3 sections. Maybe some will come up with a better explanation of the rules. That's how we interpret it. So expect the ranking among our competitors in the 488 to be the one that's going to be decisive here. And decisive has been Quinn Wiedlisbach to this point.
And continuing with his decisiveness, if I may say, because Sector 1 and Sector 2, purple for Quinn Wiedlisbach, the CDP DNC racing driver. I remind you that as he made his way out of the pit lane, he found the gravel, you know, so he was determined to get on it right from the get-go, and get on it. He has indeed gotten on it, and is hoping to improve. Hoping to improve still further. It's a 2:03.440 that he's targeting, which was his best time. Well, 2:00.983. So he is a full 2.7 seconds quicker than Fabrizio Fontana at the moment. So Quinn Wiedlisbach on something of a mission.
Absolutely, but we can see lots of personal bests across the timing screen, and one of those is Sven Schirmer, another is Fabrizio Fontana, so we expect at least the gaps to come down significantly very quickly. And as we said before, the best times have generally come in these conditions, and today at the very end of the sessions, and we expect this session to be no exception to that rule. Sven Schirmer currently P3, now full throttle down into Rivazza 1. You can see how undulating the circuit is and how he brakes. Even in these conditions, the brake discs light up, and it's just one more real turn to do before the end of the lap. There are two more kinks effectively, but they will certainly be taken at full speed. Sven Schirmer, the benchmark at 2:0.9, and he's not going to be there, but it is an improvement. P2 for the time being.
Here is Maurizio Pittori for Radici Automobili Best Lap FCI, and he, at the moment, he's not in that top 6 of the Superpole drivers. However, as you can see, Sector 1 and Sector 2 have been coloured blue, so it's personal bests from Maurizio Pittori, but I rather feel he's bailed this lap, Nico.
Yeah, that doesn't look like he's anything like quick enough,
So
but I
he's
think
going for the next one.
yeah, he looks like now he has put the foot down, takes a little bit of a wider line as we see Tommy Lindroth coming into pit lane, and Maurizio Pittori will now start a lap that he hopes that by the end of it, it will matter and it will trouble the front runners on our timing screen. Troubling the front runners, indeed, is the first sector time of Fabrizio Fontana, currently third fastest, but the first sector was 2.5 seconds, 2.5 tenths of a second actually, quicker than Quinn Wittelsbach was at that point on his pole attempt. Now down into Aqua Minerale, that right-hand turn and then immediately climbing up. It's a double right-hander actually, and try to get as far out of that corner as he dares before climbing that hill all the way to the highest point of the track, which is the Variante Alta, the high chicane. Braking, hard braking into the chicane, right, left, and then it's all the way down into Rivazza with a little bit of a kink in the middle, but it's effectively full chat flat. Lost a little bit of time on that sector. It's going to be interesting. It looks like the rain may have picked up a little bit again, and that would obviously mean quicker times not to expect. We will see what happens, but certainly it looks like rain is coming down very, very hard again. 7.5 minutes remaining, a little bit of a slide there from Fabrizio Fontana, and he kept it together. He is heading for home and heading for something of an improvement potentially. Currently P3, remains P3 even though he improves in terms of time. But I have to say, whatever was personal bests have disappeared, so I rather think that maybe, and I think now the pictures really indicate that the rain is coming down harder.
Yes, it is. And Maurizio Pittori then, yeah, these conditions become, and dare I say it, Nico, this proves the benefit of going out early on and putting in a banker lap.
Oh, 100%, because you never know what happens, and in these conditions, rain is always something you have to factor in as an uncertainty. Maurizio Pittori completes the lap. Well, having said that, Pino Frascaro is still pushing, personal best, but in fairness, his personal best on the first sector is almost a second slower than Quinn Wittelsbach, which is not indicating that he's not pushing or that he's not quick, but just the circumstances not allowing the times that they did, like maybe 5 minutes ago. And we can see Pino Frascaro filing into pit lane. I think he understands that right now there's very little he can do.
Yes, I think I would agree with that. This is Sven Schirmer, who we're watching bounce across the curbs and get the back end of the car out there as he controlled it by sliding the car. So Pino Frascaro, as Nico rightly said, by dint of the P that you can see alongside his name on the graphics, he's come into the pit lane. Tommy Lindroth has done exactly the opposite and has made his way out of the pit lane, complete with rubber ring, I would suggest, to support buoyancy necessary around this track as the rain really does come down at something of a pace now, and we've got 5.5 minutes of this session remaining. The only thing I will say is that conditions are the same, of course, for all the drivers that are contesting this Finali Mondiali qualifying for our 488 Challenge drivers. Quinn Wiedlisbach, Sven Schirmer, Fabrizio Fontana, and Alexei Komarov are the top 4 at the moment. Here is Quinn Wiedlisbach, certainly not improving. Now, in terms of grip availability, Nico, that is compromised, but so too, if you're following another car, is visibility.
Absolutely, and we saw this earlier in the Coppa Shell Am. What's also compromised is not only the visibility to the front when you're following another car, but the visibility in the rear. So even if you want to get out of the way when a quicker car is coming up, you may just not see them.
And I should explain about, and this is common across both the 488 Challenge car and also the 296 Challenge car, as we get a red flag on the session, is that these cars have a rear view screen. They don't have a rear view mirror. The reason for that is the Challenge cars are built with a safety bulkhead behind the driver, which prevents having a traditional rear view mirror, if you will. So the cars have cameras positioned at the back of the car, which gives them a really expansive view of what's on behind onto a screen that's mounted on the dashboard. Now, of course, the expanse of that view, as you have indicated, Nico, is somewhat horlicked when there is lots of rain and lots of spray coming off your very car, which prevents you being able to see anything behind. So there we have a session is suspended by red flag. The clock is stopped at 4 minutes and 30 left on the in the session. As I think the rain abates just a little bit now. I'm trying to be uber positive about the weather conditions, but as the session was suspended, it was Quinn Wiedlisbach from Sven Schirmer and Fabrizio Fontana, Alexei Komarov, Maurizio Pittori, Faisal Shayer, Pino Frascaro, Tommy Lindroth. Of the 8 cars of the 11 that we have, only 8 of them have made it out onto the track, which not convinced that we will see the 3 missing drivers before the end of the session: Germano Salernitano, Gerardo Marino, and Niels Sebranson. We're looking at the 218 car of Maurizio Pittori right now. And there you can see the 488 Challenge car has been such a brilliant car. And there you can see some of the Coppa Shell cars who are ready to get out there and contest their qualifying session. You can see the car of Jan Bernier there, the 432 car. Session stopped due to weather conditions, as you can see. 4.5 minutes were left on the clock. I was just saying to my on-air colleague alongside me, with just 4.5 minutes, not 4.5 seconds, 4.5 minutes remaining in the session. Given the lap times have been in the 2 minutes, Nico, actually, if the session were to restart, the very best that we could hope for would be probably one timed lap, I would have suggested. Therefore, I'm not absolutely convinced there's any viability or value in sending the cars out again. However, it's only my opinion, and we are not in race control, for which every driver should be very thankful, I would suggest.
Yeah, I'm very sure of that, but as you can see right now, the track is a rather empty place, unless you're a raindrop. Then you're in very good company. There are the cars lined up. Hello, one of our camera guys working in the sun, in the rain. Thank you for all your efforts and commitment. Obviously, this may be a good moment to just thank everybody on the TV production team. Really working hard and inside the OB van, outside on the cameras along the track, to bring you the wonderful images from the Ferrari Challenge, even though sometimes it's a little bit stationary, like now. Yes,
it is. Session stopped due to weather conditions. 488 Challenge cars were qualifying until the session got suspended with a red flag. Now we will see if and when it resumes. Tommy Lindroth there, who in his car has delivered a P2 in the 488 Challenge Championship this year. He's had a really good year. Well done, Tommy Lindroth. He's making his way down to the start of the pit lane in anticipation, therefore, Nico, of the session going green once again, perhaps. Maybe he knows more than we do. Quinn Wiedlisbach's Barons there. And Quinn Wiedlisbach is currently at the top of the chart, Nico, with a 2:00.983 when the session was stopped due to the conditions. The top three: Quinn Wiedlisbach, Sven Schirmer, and Fabrizio Fontana. Just out of the top three: Alexei Komarov. Then it was Maurizio Pittori, Faisal Shayer, Pino Frescaro, and the very man that we were talking about a moment ago, Tommy Lindroth. So we still have no further news from our race control colleagues, who are literally situated below us from our studio. Bang on the floor. Do you think they'd get a message up to us? Probably not.
Probably not, but yeah. We will see what happens, but I think for the time being, the weather isn't very likely to change dramatically. We've been surprised previously in the Coppa Shell M qualifying. It changed quicker than we thought, but as you can see, the atmosphere and the vibes in the pit lane are still very positive. And why wouldn't you when you're at the Ferrari World Finals?
Yeah, there's something very positive about the whole Finali Mondiali event. Now you can see the Richard Mills safety car. Now that's out there. The reason it's out there is it's doing a reconnaissance lap. And that is to ascertain what the conditions are like. And I would suggest there's quite a lot of standing water in places, as you could see, the Richard Mills safety car. Now, who's driving it? Antonio Tamburini or Sandro I don't know. Can't see far enough through the windscreen. All of the safety car drivers are former Ferrari drivers who know how to propel a car around a track in whatever weather conditions. So that reconnaissance lap ongoing, and when we ascertain exactly what is going to happen, we will be back with you.
Indeed. Thank you very much for watching, and we will be back with more racing and qualifying, hopefully soon.
Welcome back to Imola, and the information we have is that the session will restart in 50 seconds from now. So at 12:31, and head of the queue is Tommy Lindroth. I guess, Nico, we should have taken our cue from the fact that Tommy Lindroth went to the start of the pit lane. He knew something we didn't.
Generally, that is the case.
There's Quinn Wheatless back. He's not going to be doing any more. No. He's out of the car.
Absolutely, and I think, you know, when you're Tommy Lindroth and you're P8 in this,
Yep.
I think there is much more to be gained. When Wittelsbach is P1, I think the risk-reward factor in these conditions, I can understand the strategy of the team, of him, and it's going to be interesting if anybody of the drivers out there can improve. But, you know, Tommy Lindroth is 6 seconds off the pace of Quinn Wittelsbach, or the time, actually.
Yes.
So there is an argument that 6 seconds, there is room for improvement for Quinn Wittelsbach. How much could he improve, if any? So that's the question, but now it's effectively a race towards getting maybe 2 timed laps, certainly 1 timed lap in there, but at the same time not pushing too much, because the conditions really aren't that easy to manage. And for the last 20 minutes or so, no car except for the safety car has dissipated any of the standing water. So it's really treacherous, and there you could see Fabrizio Fontana effectively running through a puddle. So this is going to be interesting. We've got 5 cars out there, and that includes Sven Schomer, Fabrizio Fontana, Maurizio Pittori, Faisal Shahir, Tommy Lindroth, and joining now is Pino Frascaro, making it 6.
Yes, so there is the Tommy Lindroth car that we're watching. Tommy, one of those that could benefit from running in the final 3.5 minutes of this session, which is what we have remaining. And he will use this as an installation lap. He will be choosing his points very carefully. He'll be ascertaining where there is standing water, where there's rivers running across the track, so that he will know where he can push and where he needs to perhaps be a tad more cautious. So Tommy Lindroth, very experienced driver, and he's had a stellar season in the 488 Challenge. As I mentioned, he's finished P2 in the championship this year. All the honours now remain are the Finali Mondiali honours, the world champion title. And Pino Frascaro, another driver choosing to go out so that he can potentially, and there's one of the rivers crossing the track that I was talking about, you know, where you get this sort of standing water that ripples across the track. And Tommy Lindroth with quite some spray being kicked off the back of his 488 Challenge car. He is hoping to be able to, not necessarily on this lap, but on the next one, offer an improvement. Tommy accelerates now through the 2 Rivazza turns, and this is the final one of those. And the back end of the car just stepping out a little bit. Well controlled by the Baron driver. And heading towards breaking the timing beam. And Nico, you're right, he would theoretically be able to cross the timing line with just enough time to do another lap, dependent upon how quick his next lap time is.
Indeed, yeah, it's going to be really, really close, but he will certainly try and do something, and I think by the end of the first sector, he will have an indication and understanding, and so will we. If there is really benefit, if there is a chance to try something. The sector times on the outlap didn't indicate much. 1.6 seconds, that still leaves a possibility. He was 6 seconds down, but obviously the first sector is by far the shortest. So if you extrapolate, it could be kind of where he was after the previous part of qualifying. But the time has now ticked to under 1 minute and 20 seconds. So Tommy Lindroth, potentially an additional lap. Everybody else who's out there certainly only has that one shot at an improvement. The second sector, and now down to the Aqua Minerale. There is lots of aqua there, water all over the track, and you can see how careful he has to be into that apex. So we will see after 2 sectors, 4.4 seconds. I think with all the best intentions in the world, Tommy, I think it's going to be a very tough ask to not necessarily find time, but to not lose any more time that would give him any chance for an improvement.
I think it's a fair point that you are making. We're not seeing any of the coloured sectors that we would need to see. I think Quinn Wittlersbach was probably quite wise in banking what he did and getting out of the car. We've got just 20 seconds of the session remaining, and we get a red flag once again.
Yeah, and that is effectively session over, so probably someone went off the track, and Tommy, well, he got the information, and obviously he got the indication
And
from the flags. And
session is not going to restart, so there we have it. The session is done and dusted. So no improvements, no changes, and the order then that we have is Quinn Wittlersbach, Sven Schirmer, Fabrizio Fontana, Alexei Komarov, Maurizio Pittori, Faisal Shayer, Pino Frascaro, Tommy Lindroth, and it's Sven Schirmer actually, I think, in the 275 car that has actually found the gravel trap, and that's what brought out the red flag, and that's now going to have to be recovered before we can get the Shell drivers out for their 20-minute qualifying session to see who will go through for Super Pole in the Shell drivers.
indeed, in general, there are 5 minutes between the two parts of qualifying, so 5 minutes maybe, or something like that, is probably what the recovery will take. So we will give you the time on screen and in voice when this session will start. There is Ori Hasid, who is still biding his time, but I'm sure he is anxious to go out there. Here are the results.
Confirmation of who did what in the 488 Challenge qualifying for our Finali Mondiali race. Quinn Wittlersbach the quickest from Sven Schirmer, then Fabrizio Fontana, our 488 Challenge champion. Then it was Alexei Komarov, Maurizio Pittori, Faisal Shayer, Pino Frascaro, and Tommy Lindroth. And no times were posted by Germano Salernitano, Gerardo Marino, and Niels Sebranson. So there we have it. All the confirmations, and there we could see from earlier on Quinn Wittlersbach being congratulated on what he delivered. So enjoy some of these images of our 488 Challenge cars out there for our qualifying session earlier on. Shell cars are lined up, ready to go out for the qualifying session. Quite a stack up at the front of the pit lane there, Nico.
Yeah, there was actually a separate queue for the Ghostner family. With there you can see on the right-hand side, there is the Corinna Ghostner car, and next to John Dillon, I believe, is Thomas Ghostner or Manuela. Anyway, the three Ghostners in a separate line, and in 45 seconds from now, we will get this quali session underway.
May I just mention the rear view screen that I was talking about that's mounted on the dashboard of our Ferrari Challenge cars. There you can see it in the John Dillon car for Grey Paul Nottingham. Basically the cameras from the rear project that image onto the screen, and all the drivers say it gives you a much more expansive view. That is when you don't have bucketfuls of rainwater spray being chucked up behind the car, of course.
Fair enough. 10 seconds away, Imola, host of the Ferrari World Finals 2024. There is a look at the track, and in the left-hand side you can see some of the structures built here in the paddock. It is a sight to behold.
It's amazing. It really is, as the session is underway. And I think the first to show is Jan Bernier, if I'm not mistaken. One of our North America racers. And making the way out on track right now. All of our Shell drivers, the drivers from both Europe and also North America as well. And they will be heading for our Coppa Shell qualifying, 20 minutes on the clock. And once again, Nico, we have a situation where the top 6 of these cars, irrespective of whether they're from Europe or North America, because the Finali Mondiali is non-regional, as you can see, the color codes there, Europe and North America. The top 6, whether you're from Europe, whether you're from North America, will go through to a Super Pole contest and competition this afternoon to see who will be on pole position. So basically, the target for all of our drivers in this is to get to the top 6.
Absolutely, that is exactly what it's about, and we saw earlier how dramatic that can become in Coppa Shell. And now we have the Coppa Shell cars, and you know, it really depends how is the weather going to behave. If it doesn't start raining too hard again, we expect the best times to come towards the end. Equally, it might start raining harder again at any moment, and then any time that you've banked is going to be very, very precious. So it's going to be a good, interesting strategy how the drivers will approach this. Maybe try and set a banker early and then go for another attack late, but with only 20 minutes in total.
Yeah, and a lot of cars. Traffic will be an issue. Visibility will be an issue. Keeping that light flashing green, dare I say, it might be something of an issue as well, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely, because you might do everything right, but another driver, another car getting it wrong and ending up in the gravel can really, really quickly end up with a red flag, and right when you're on a quick lap, that really goes to waste if that happens. So all you can do is control what you can control, try to set yourself up, have the car in the best setup and condition, and put in the quickest lap you can. It's that easy, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You make it sound like a walk in the park, as the Nick Straker band said back in the 80s, I think. Right, let's see who does what then. Dr. Stephen Earle is one of the drivers that is out there on track. Ernst Kirkmeyer we're looking at right now, driving the 199 car. So we'll see what our drivers can do. And Kirkmeyer going quickest of anyone, which is no surprise because it will be the first time lap that we see of the session. And we will, of course, update the graphics on the left-hand side of the screen for you in due course as the drivers cross the lines and begin to post their times. Already the first 3.5 minutes of this session is done. So Ernst Kirkmeyer on his way. It's not Dr. Stephen Earle. The cars are identical in terms of livery, which is why, not for the first time, I got it wrong. And out there on track as well, just making his way out, is Henri Acide, our Shell champion in Europe for 2024. Ernst then climbing uphill. Big shout out, of course, also to our 488 drivers that were out earlier on, who have, to a degree, cleared the track for everybody else. And yeah, here comes Ernst Kirkmeyer then, who will give us our first meaningful lap time in around about 4 corners from now. Here comes the first of those 4 as he runs downhill, brakes into the Ravazza 1, then he has Ravazza 2 to do, which he's done, and now we'll head towards the timing line. Ray Acosta is also out there, and Ray Acosta has had a real purple patch, if I dare use the colours, in terms of taking 4 wins out of the last 4 races in Ferrari Challenge North America. And Ernst Kirkmeyer, then John Dillon, they are P1 and P2 in class, P2 and P3 overall at the moment, but they're only, well, now Ray Acosta goes quicker than anyone with a 2:00.519, so Ray Acosta is the quickest driver, and you can see on the left-hand side of your screen that the colours yellow are for our Shell drivers, the colours blue are for our 488 Challenge drivers. We ride on board with John Dillon, who's fourth fastest overall, third fastest within class. Now, ordinarily, Nico, the 488 Challenge cars that contest in the same race as the 296s, 296 is clearly a quicker car. However, in these conditions, is it an absolute impossibility that the fastest of the 488 Challenge cars, I mean, as you can see, Quinn Wiedler's back. His time has only been beaten by one of the Shell drivers thus far. I appreciate we've still got 14 minutes to go.
Yeah, I think the last statement is the key one for now. I do think that at the end of this session we will have the Shell drivers all in the front, even though the conditions are very, very taxing. And now we've got Motohiko Isozaki, who was a Shell M driver last year, at the sharp end of this session. We would have to check the very fine print in the regulations if, as normally is the case, the Shell drivers are simply ordered to the front of the pack, and for safety reasons, simply because the Shell drivers on the 296s are seconds per lap quicker, it would make sense. But that's something we will find out. Jan Bernier from North America is now the quickest of the lot, just bested Motohiko Isozaki by 8/10, so expect those times to come tumbling down unless the rain picks up again. And Corinna Gostner almost got stuck in the gravel. I think that's the Aqua Minerale up the hill, up the way to Variantal, and it's so very easy to get it wrong in there.
Yeah, and you see each and every one of our drivers are on a knife edge, Nico. Well done to Corinna for keeping it out of the gravel, because that would for sure have suspended the session. Ernst Kirkmeyer has now gone quickest ahead of Jan Bernier, von Skiltemar, James Wyland, Motohiko Isozaki and Michael Martin. So my theory earlier of a 488 driver actually being in the Super Pole has already been cast aside, because we have the top 6 drivers are all Shell drivers, and Jan Bernier from Ferrari of Seattle and Scuderia 1999 is on an improvement trajectory. Kirkmeyer, Bernier, Skiltemar, Wyland, Isozaki, Michael Martin, 12.5 minutes remaining. Here is Jan Bernier then, driving the 432 car, and been a fine North American competitor, has Jan Bernier for a number of years. A terribly nice individual, and he's making his way around the Imola circuit right now on this Finali Mondiali qualifying session. Kirkmeyer leading, and is the only driver into the 58s. We have then another 4 drivers in the 59s, and Henri Acide is at the moment missing from our Super Pole lineup, and Henri Acide is the champion in the Shell drivers in Europe. You would expect to see him further up the order. Jan Bernier did not improve, and John Dillon vaults up to P2 in the qualifying so far. We've seen a time from Eric Marston, who of course is the Shell champion in North America, Nico. And around again it goes Corinna Gostner in almost the same place, I believe. But again, Corinna keeps it out of the gravel, for which we thank her. However, somebody that hasn't kept it out of the gravel is the 479 car. You can see that he's beached there. And that is Mitchell Green, the Ferrari of Westlake driver. And unfortunately, that brings out the red flag, because that car is going to have to be recovered. So the time gets stopped. We had 11 minutes remaining in the session, and I don't think Mitchell will be able to recover that car from there. The gravel trap has done what it is supposed to do, and that is to really absorb the speed and slow the car right down, and that's what it's done, and therefore the session is suspended with a red flag. As it was suspended, it was Ernst Kirkmeyer who was the quickest ahead of John Dillon, Jan Bernier, Ray Acosta, von Skiltemar, and Andreas Rizzi.
Yeah, and obviously that was the only possible call here to bring out the red flag. Hopefully it won't be a very, very long intermission, but for the time being, everybody who was out there has to file back into pit lane and prepare themselves. Now 11 minutes is enough time to do something about your current position. Already it looked like with times improving by the minute, it might be the best times coming towards the end, but as we also saw, it's very, very slippery, and the more you push, the greater the danger becomes that you or someone else has an excursion into a position where a red flag is required. So it's really on a knife edge in all regards. And then you still have to throw in the fact that maybe the weather will turn again. It's always a risk.
We're riding on board with John Dillon, who's second fastest. He was only 9/100ths down on Ernst Kirkmeyer. Very good time set from John Dillon, being coached this weekend by Sean Doyle, and Matt Griffin also coaches John Dillon as well. And John has had a really good season as well, finishing P2 in the European Shell Championship, richly deserved. There you can see the Christoph Herney car, the all-yellow 296 Challenge car with the number 162 on it. As soon as we get any information in terms of when the session is going to restart, we will bring that to you. But when the session does restart, we're going to have 11 minutes on the clock. And all the cars filing their way into the pit lane then. I remind you, the session has been suspended due to Mitchell Green in the gravel. And, you know, he's far from the only one that's come into the gravel because the conditions are so difficult. That's for sure. There's Manuela Gosner. There is Lisa Clark. And there is the queue of the cars in the pit lane. I would suggest that, as you have said, Nico, that the recovery teams here at Imola have worked really quickly and efficiently. So I don't imagine this is going to be a elongated stoppage. But when all the cars file back out again, they're all going to be bunched together. There'll be a lot of spray around, and yeah, it's going to be difficult for them. But we will see when we come back. The news is that the session is going to restart, Nico, in 20 seconds from now.
Nice. Yeah, great to see those 296 Challenge cars in a stationary position. Much better to see them in motion, even though sometimes you don't see them because of the spray. But we are anticipating the restart in 3, 2, 1, green. Well, now it's green. There we are, 11 minutes. Now exactly remaining, and Kirchmeier at the top of the standings, but all the cars, or pretty much all of the cars, now ready to file out and go back about the qualifying business.
Yes, those that are the first cars out will have the advantage in terms of visibility, I would suggest, Nico. It's going to be very difficult. Visibility is going to be hard. It is still raining. There's Manu Gosner then, who had not set a really meaningful lap time. A number of drivers, Nico, hadn't set what I would consider to be a meaningful lap time before the session was suspended. Unfortunately, Ernst Kirchmeier, John Dillon, Jan Bernier, Ray Acosta, Von Skeltermar and Andreas Rizzi were the top 6 drivers. Now I'm beginning to wonder, with 10 minutes remaining, whether some of those drivers that feel they've done enough to bank a good lap time may choose not to come back out again. It's on a cusp, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really difficult, and obviously one question is, how is the weather going to develop? How is the track going to develop? What can you even do in terms of traffic, in terms of standing water, in terms of visibility? Let's see, we will certainly watch whether Ernst Kirchmeier and John Dillon, who are P1 and P2, will come out again, what their strategy is going to be.
I think I just saw John Dillon making his way out of the pit lane, and indeed I did, because the P turns into a O. As John Dillon does make his way out. There's Von Skeltermar that we can see out there on track. Von Skeltermar is currently 5th fastest. I remind you, the top 6 of our drivers will end up in the Super Pole competition, which will set the obviously the pole position for the Finali Mondiali race to come a little bit later on today. Every driver wants to get up there.
Absolutely, exactly. Super Pole later today. The race will be on tomorrow, and everybody who finishes P7 and down will start from the position that they will conclude this quali session in. So it's not only about the first 6 positions, but obviously that's the main goal, getting there. And now Ernst Kirchmeier also has emerged from the pit lane. I think you actually may have just seen him come out, tail fin of his 296 challenge. Indeed, there it is. Well,
a good spot by you.
Once I got it right. Now, obviously, he is not at pace, but he's at a considerable pace, it has to be said. Manuel Agosto not really making any significant inroads for someone who's on an outlap, which maybe just is a testament to the level of the conditions. Manuel Agosto, after the first sector, half a second down on the best time set by Ernst Kirchmeier himself. So we will see 8 minutes remaining, and all the drivers, and especially the teams, will have their fingers crossed for nobody to make an excursion which would cause another red flag, especially when your driver, when you are on a quick lap.
Of course. So Ernst Kirchmeier and Manuel Agosto that we focus on here, the Ineco Reparto Corsa Ram driver. There is driver coach Giorgio Sonacciotto. Listening in to the conditions that Manuela is reporting back to him on the pit wall. Great to have the ability to split the shot here so that you can see. Driver coach and Von Skeltermar finds the gravel. I don't think the car is beached in. If he's gentle on the clutch, he will be able to get the car back out onto the tarmac again without beaching it into the gravel, which would be great news for all of us, because it would mean that the session wouldn't be suspended. The rain continues to come down unabated as Ernst Kirchmeier, John Dillon, Jan Bernier, Ray Acosta, Von Skeltermar and Andreas Rizzi are the top 6 drivers. Is anyone going to improve on the remaining 7 minutes of this session? Well, only time will tell. 6 3/4 minutes remain. Ernst Kirchmeier, Manuel Agosto, the 2 drivers we see there into the chicane. Lots of standing water around, and drivers really having to tiptoe through these challenging conditions, forgive the pun, in the Ferrari Challenge Finali Mondiali qualifying. Here is Ray Acosta. He is 4th fastest. He's been bested by Jan Bernier, but Ray Acosta is in with a quick lap here. Purple sector 1, purple sector 2. Ray Acosta, who in the last 4 races for North America has been a race winner, and he bounces the car over the curbs. He then has to slow it significantly. That may have compromised his improvement trajectory as he disappears through the murk and heads down to the Ravazza turns. 2 of those to do. That's Ravazza 1. You can see how much spray is coming off the Ray Acosta car. That's just indicative, as we've got a red flag with 5.5 minutes of the session remaining. So Ray was on a quick one, but that is not going to count because the session has been suspended again, and that is for the 170 car of Ken Abe that has found not only the gravel but has found the barriers as well. And I suspect with the, I can just see at the back there some of the barriers having been reshaped. Not only the recovery of the car, but some barrier reshaping and reinstatement is going to have to be done as well. So this isn't going to be seconds worth of stop. Ken Abe is out of the car and perfectly okay, as you can see. The integral safety of the 296 Challenge car. The most important thing is to see Ken out of the car, and this is how it happened, Nico. Oh, he got it sideways, then is pirouetting across the track, and that was a big impact. A big impact and lots of damage to the barriers there. So the most important thing is that Ken is out of the car and Ken is perfectly okay. Nico, that is not going to be the work of a moment.
No, as you say, I mean, the most important thing, that Ken Abe is okay, but indeed, yeah, you cannot expect that stoppage to be only a couple of minutes, because obviously safety has to be not only the safety of the car, but the safety of the track, and that means in that case the barriers, and that has to be all put back into order. And yeah, not going to make any predictions, but first of all, that has to be assessed, that has to be repaired, and unfortunately that means with 5.5 minutes remaining, we won't see those 5.5 minutes start ticking off the clock very, very soon. So it's really a pity that the weather here in Imola has turned the way it has, especially at the crowning week of Ferrari racing activities and the challenge and all the other activities that are on track and which happen here in the paddock. But that's the weather. It's an open air sport and nothing we can do about that except for make the best of it.
You're absolutely right. There is the Jan Bernier car. Jan in the session thus far, third fastest, having set a time of 1:58.993. 1:58.993 from Jan Bernier. Ernst Kirkmeyer, John Dillon, besting Jan Bernier and Ray Acosta. Ernst Kirkmeyer and John Dillon, P1 and P2. So, for the moment then, we have stoppage in our qualifying for our Coppa Shell and 488 cars here at Imola, and Ken Abe finding the gravel. And for now, that is as much as we can bring you from our qualifying. As soon as we know when we're going back to qualifying again, we will be back with you. But from Nico and from myself for the moment, bye-bye.
sì, sono in contatto con la direzione gara, non ci sono buone notizie perché la pista è veramente allagata, in modo particolare con rivoli anche di acqua fangosa, in modo particolare allagata, per cui al momento non ci sono
plenty going on just behind them as we head into turn number 1. Something of a pinch point. Max Micheli trying to make a move early on. Very, very good start, I believe, as we go through turn number 1 right now. Pushes himself through into V2 because he's got the inside line.